Imagine you want to grow a garden and you have two options to choose from. One, you can listen to me explain to you how to grow a garden, or you can practice growing a garden while I supervise or guide you. Now, which would you choose? My name is Amarachi Johnson-Ubah. I'm a software developer and educator. I'm also the founder of Tech Education Point. Now, in the two scenarios I just painted, the first is what we know as knowledge-based learning, while the second is known as project-based learning. I'm excited to be sharing with you today why project-based learning is critical, some advantages of project-based learning, some of the examples of project-based learning, and of course, how you can get started with implementing project-based learning. So what is project-based learning? Project-based learning is simply an instructional procedure where students are given the opportunity to acquire skills and knowledge by practicing, by building projects, and by solving real-world problems and challenges. Now, we encourage project-based learning for a number of reasons. Number one is that we live in a project-based world. Almost everything ranging from health, finance, industry, economies are all anchored around projects. Therefore, for students to be able to actually fit into this project-based world, they need to be prepared ahead of time right from school. Secondly, project-based learning actually gives the students the ability to make informed choices about their career, about their passion, about their hobbies, because when they must have built a number of projects or carried out a number of projects in school, it gives them ample opportunity to know that, okay, I don't do well in this, I don't find interest in this, or I would love to pursue a career in this to learn more or to explore further, and I want to drop this. So it gives them the ability to make more informed choices concerning their career, hobbies, or passion. Now, there is a favorite quote of mine which says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." The involve me and I learn part is what project-based learning is all about. Now, a recent study shows that project-based learning helps to increase the retention rate of students. When students are given the opportunity to carry out projects and solve real-world challenges, it gives them more ability to retain knowledge and to retain whatever topic or subject you must have taught them. There are also further key facts and figures to support the importance of project-based learning on students. We have an assessment which revealed that students who use project-based learning and defined learning outperform their peers by a lot of points. We also have a second fact which states that project-based learning users achieved higher scores than those who use the traditional teaching method, which is knowledge-based learning solely. And we also have another fact which states that those who use defined learning also outperform their peers in a certain control. So these are some of the facts that support how important project-based learning is to students. Now, what are the key benefits of project-based learning? Now, you have to keep in mind that project-based learning is a student-centric approach. One of the key benefits of project-based learning is that it transforms students by inspiring them to think differently. They think problem solving, they think solution, rather than thinking problem only. Secondly, project-based learning gives students the ability to master some of the soft skills which are really, really essential in thriving in the 21st century. Soft skills such as problem solving, soft skills such as collaboration, communication, critical thinking. These are some of the things project-based learning helps to inculcate into the students who are using the method. Thirdly, project-based learning enables students to be actually successful in their careers, because as I said before, if students are given who use project-based learning are able to make more informed choices about their careers and about their hobbies and passion, this simply states that when a student eventually gets into a career, they already knew the whole the nitty-gritties of what they were getting themselves into, and possibly that career is also something they are passionate about. So it also sets them up for a whole lot of successes in their careers in academics. Now, lastly, for now, project-based learning teachers makes more impact in the lives of their students, because if a student can be able to relate with what you've shown them, they are able to retain the content, as opposed to when a student after school can't even recall any single thing they learned. There are a lot of students, immediately they drop their pen for finals, they can't remember any definition, they can't remember any mathematics, they can't remember anything they learned in school. But if you practice project-based learning, it gives students the ability to recall, to retain, to even make career choices based on what you've done. And these are impacts that students, you're leaving a legacy on them as a teacher. So these are the key benefits of project-based learning. So let's take some examples of project-based learning. Remember, you can implement project-based learning based on the subjects you are teaching. A teacher can implement project-based learning based on subject. Now, for someone who is teaching computer science, you can decide to ask them to design an app. For an agricultural science teacher, you can ask them to plant a garden. For environment, you can ask them to solve a waste disposal problem. Or for geography, you can ask them to design a modern city. For government, you can ask them to design a new form of government. And for entrepreneurship, you can ask them to launch a profitable business. Now, the purpose of project-based learning, all these examples I just listed, is to have them have some experience of the real world challenges of these examples while the teacher supervises them. So we are going to be taking some of these examples in details. So let's take an example of the design an app problem. And I'm calling this from the Technovation Challenge, which I happen to be a mentor of the 2019 Technovation Challenge team. Now, this is the illustration of designing an app. First, the students are asked to find a problem. The problem can be any local problem around them. It could be problem of problem of gender inequality, problem of waste disposal, problem of rape, any problem as small as it might be or as large as it might be. The student's job is to look inwards, look around them, find a problem around you. Then when they find a problem, the second step is to research on the problem. Who has this problem? Where are they? Are they male or female? What are their age ranges? Where do we find them? Are you the only one having this problem, or it's something peculiar to your area or your city? Which country does this problem really affect the most? Now, you allow the students to go think about everything about the problem. Think about the demography, the personality, everything about the problem. That's the research phase of that. Then the third, after they must have researched about the problem, they now prefer a solution. Okay, since we know that this is a problem of waste disposal and it's usually affecting those in the urban areas due to lack of incinerators around the streets. This is an example now. Now, what is the solution you're preferring for this problem? How do you think the solution can look like? And for this particular problem, we usually want them to design a solution that can be carried out using a mobile app. So we will ask them, prefer a solution that can be built out as a mobile app. Now, when they finish designing this solution, the next thing we ask them to do is to design a prototype. How do you want this solution to look like on a mobile app? They can use a cardboard paper or a piece of paper, draw out different wireframes of phones, draw out how it's supposed to look like, as basic as it could be. This is not a full-fledged app. This is not a full-fledged app by a mobile phone company or something. So they design a very simple prototype solution to that problem. Then the next thing they do is to create the mobile app. And mostly they use the mobile app inventor. They don't go ahead building it with Java or all the rest of programming languages. So one thing you have to get out of this is, depending on the class or the level of the students, you have to make sure you suit your projects to the class you're teaching. For students, this particular project now is for students in secondary school. So if you're teaching students in the tertiary institution, you should know solutions that can also be very unique to them. Okay, so since these are secondary school students, we usually encourage them to use the mobile app inventor for their solutions. Okay, for those in primary, you can also decide to use a different solution for them so that they don't get overwhelmed. The main aim of the whole thing is to give them an experience, to give them a real life experience of designing an app. And then lastly, what they do after they must have created their mobile app is to pitch. Come out in front of the class, come out in front of the audience, pitch your idea, pitch your problem, pitch your solution, and also get an idea of what pitching a solution also looks like. So this right here is a typical example of project-based learning where a student has invariably carried out a whole real-life experience from finding a problem down to also pitching his or her solution. So now that we've seen some of the examples of project-based learning, let us look at some of the challenges project-based learning has. As good as project-based learning sounds, there are still a lot of challenges it faces, a lot of shortcomings, a lot of reasons why people are not yet imbibing project-based learning. And one of it is the difficulty in adapting from traditional methods. Now, knowledge-based learning is the most rampant method of teaching worldwide, where teachers come to class, teach, and that's that, like mostly verbal teaching, right? So it's a lot difficult for a lot of schools and a lot of teachers to adapt to this project-based learning, where teaching is no longer based on solely talking, but more of project-based, where students build, and the teacher acts more like a supervisor. Number two is lack of implementation guidelines. A lot of schools, a lot of educators do not understand how to even go about implementing project-based learning yet. So they are still going along with the curriculum which is given to them by maybe the educational bodies, and still, which is still the same old curriculums for now. Then thirdly, project-based learning actually results to higher workload for teachers. If we are imbibing on project-based learning, it simply means that the workload on teachers will be increased. And this is the reason why a lot of schools are still very reluctant to start practicing project-based learning. And finally, lack of professional development for teachers. Now, one thing is certain, that there is no academic system that can outperform the quality of its teachers. If a teacher is not well grounded in a particular subject or in a particular track, if a teacher has not been professionally driven to even build out certain projects and also carry out project-based challenges on her own or his own, it is difficult for the teacher to also supervise the students or even help them implement project-based learning. So these are some of the challenges project-based learning is facing right now, and I will be preferring some solutions to them. This is targeted at policymakers. So if you're a policy maker here, or you're an intending policymaker, these are some of the ways I believe project-based learning can be better adapted to schools. Number one is to reduce the number of students in the classroom. If project-based learning is to work, the fewer students in the class, the better, in order to give the teacher ample time to really supervise the students in the class and really pay attention to them individually or as a group. So number one, reduce the number of students in class. Number two, provide detailed implementation guidelines for the educators. So most schools follow along with government curriculums for their for their activities and their teaching procedures. So it's also important to also give them an implementation guideline for project-based learning. This is how it's supposed to be. This is the number of occurrence, just the same way the curriculum is built out week 1, week 2, week 3. The same way implementation guidelines for project-based learning should also be made available to educators and to schools. Thirdly, make internship and volunteering part of education. Yeah, I know on a wider scale, internship is already part of the education system. In Nigeria here, a lot of schools practice internship, especially at tertiary level, where at a certain level you go for internship. But if it can also be brought down more to even secondary school students, where they are also encouraged to intern even as secondary school students, that would be a very great step at ensuring project-based learning is practiced. And also volunteering. Volunteering is not usually emphasized on, but it's important for students to learn how important volunteering could be. Volunteering on things that you are passionate about. Sometimes you gain a lot of skills, a lot of real life skills, a lot of real life experiences working with other people free of charge on their projects. It gives you lifelong skills you would eventually meet later in life, and you would be grateful you did. Then finally, organize more teacher-centric training on the implementation of project-based learning. I'll repeat it once again. No academic institution can outperform the quality of its teachers. For project-based learning to be effective, teachers need to be properly trained and properly trained and given professional guidance on how to go about project-based learning. Now, on the part of the teachers, while we await certain policies to be put in place, what do you do, what do we do as teachers to ensure that project-based learning is actually key in our classes? Number one, you can give your students the opportunity to present their work every year, which can include public audience. You can allow students, give them projects that involves them going out there, making researches on a particular subject topic, come back to the class or to the school and make a public demonstration of what their findings were. Secondly, approach learning from a student's perspective. You should understand that we are preparing students for tomorrow, right? Now, since you're preparing students for tomorrow, it's important that you also teach them skills that will be efficient for them tomorrow, that will be necessary for them tomorrow. You don't teach the students of the future with the same skills of the past and expect things to be very, very optimal. So it's important that you approach learning from the student's perspective. How do the students feel about this subject? How do they feel about this topic? How do I make them understand this more? How about them practice this? How will they feel? What would be the learning outcome when they actually practice this? What would be the learning outcome when they just read about this in the class? How would they feel if I give this to them as an assignment? How about if I group them together? How about I pair the dull ones with the smart ones? So think about education, think about your subject from the perspective of your students. Think about how learning that thing in class would feel from their own perspective. Number three, keep things simple. For you to practice project-based learning, you mustn't tell the students to go out there to start a brand new project. This could be something someone has done in the past. They can go maybe make it better, or they can repeat it. The main aim is just that they are having a knowledge of applying real-world solutions and solving real-world problems. Then finally, every project-based teacher is a learner. Every project-based teacher is a learner. For you to be able to carry out project-based learning in your class, you must have carried out certain projects on your own, because you can't give what you don't have. For you to be able to supervise students on carrying out a project, you must have gone through that project in a way. For instance, if you're an entrepreneurship teacher, there should have been a point where you carried out an entrepreneurship project, or even tried out carrying out a business, starting up a business or a startup. This would give you ample experience in guiding students when they are about embarking on their own projects. So as a teacher, please develop yourself, learn more about project-based learning, start learning. So I'm going to be closing with this quote, which states that education is not to reform students or to amuse them or make them expert technicians. It is to unsettle their minds, expand their horizon, inflame their intellects, teach them to think straight if possible. The reason you are teaching, the reason you're in class is not solely to make them memorize, rather it's to open up their mind. The emphasis shouldn't be on what the students are learning at that moment, but it should be about what you're teaching them is making them feel, is making them think about. The after effect of your class activities with them is the most important thing when it comes to learning. So I am urging us today to start. Every journey may begin with a single step, but sometimes that step can be daunting. I know, right? But you have to start. You have to start small. With little changes, we are bound to make remarkable results in the nearest future. Thank you so much for listening to my session.